Good evening everyone, this is Lucas Note and I am back with a part 2 of my task 1 of 2D digital graphics. Before I continue, I just want to remind you where we last left off in the last video, which was I finished our turbine shaft. We had a base outline for where the shaft was going to be, and we got our turbine shaft already set up right here, and it's looking good so far. If I zoom in, you can look at that. It does look quite nice. I could get rid of the stroke where it looks more natural, but I'm gonna leave the stroke there for now, just so I'll have a base outline of what's there. Right, let me take my headphones off because it does distort how I talk sometimes. So the next part that we're going to do is we are continue on our turbine, but this time I'm looking at working on a rotor, like one of these, because it can't be a turbine without a rotor. Now, because it is facing us, I had to look at different images of how to perceive it. For example, like this. As you can see with this image that I'm looking at right now, you can see the kind of design of the rotor, which looks creepily similar to mine. And I trust you, that is not of my design, and this isn't a taken from Google Images, because in the last video you saw me paint it and design it myself, and I did not have a base reference of that design at the time. So we're going to work on the top part of the rotor, and all we really need is just a cylinder really. I just need to double check my colouring, see if it's the same as the original, which it appears to be down here. Now I know that the task at hand does mention about I had to identify and explore appropriate software tool for a particular type of 2D graphics and give my reason for using that 2D graphic tool, so I decided to use. Now, I've just basically been using brush tools like this. The reason I've been using the brush tool is because I just find it quite convenient. And I just had a message come through on my phone. Oh, it's nothing to worry about. It's just a YouTube video that just decided to come up. But unfortunately, I have this to do, and we are going to be working on the turbine's rotor. Not the blades yet, just the rotor. So what we're going to do in order to get this rotor is we are going to create a new layer. To create a new layer, we just go down to here where we got a new layer, and we'll click on the new layer, and we're just gonna double click on that, and we're just gonna name that turbine rotor. Is it another R or is it an AR? No, it's an R. Yeah. Now, before I start, I wanted to say why I'm using Adobe Photoshop for this project. It isn't because it is the industry standard software that every apparent studio uses. I mean, there are so many different studios out there, and my Steam thing just decided to pop up for some reason. So update. I don't want to do anything with that yet. Right. Yeah, the reason I'm using Adobe Photoshop is because it's the only 2D graphics software I've got on my computer. On my last computer I did have GIMP, which is pretty much a free to download, more free version of Photoshop, but it doesn't have all the same features that you would get in Photoshop. I don't have the CC version, which I did mention in the last one. I've got the CS6 version, so in terms of backwards compatibility and things like that, I have to use CS6 throughout this whole project, because I'm not sure if there is any backwards compatibility. But that's pretty much the reason. Yeah, that's pretty much the reason why I am using Photoshop, is because it's the only program I've got. And not anything to do with industry standard, because I know there's a lot of studios out there that do use other 2D programs for a variety of things. It depends on what's good for them, I guess. For me, Photoshop seems to do the work. Okay, so we need to try and draw a circle here, but I can't just use the brush to create that circle, because it just, if you look at it, if I paint over it, it just looks weird. Instead, I'm going to use a shape tool like here, and at the moment it's on custom shape because I was making a logo a few days ago. Nothing of anything major. It's just more of my logo editing skills and stuff that I was keeping up to date. So I was using like custom shapes and getting like this register symbol. You've also got your copy, and you've got your trademarks, and you've got a variety of other symbols that you can add in. But I won't be using any of them. Instead, I'm just going to hold down my left mouse button on this tool, and I'm just going to go to ellipse tool, which allows me to create a circle, or a sphere, or a ball, whatever terminology you want to use. I am generally being told at college that I have to use subject terminology, but I say to hell with that, because I'm my own person, and how I do things is up to me. I know I do understand the subject terminologies of things, but if I'm working on something, I know the tools, so I don't feel that I have to really tell what it is. I mean, if it's a ball or a circle, then it's a circle. I need to think of the colour, which I think the colour is what it is down there, and I believe it is, and that's what I need. I do not want a stroke, so I'm going to click on this section here, and I am going to click on that, and that means that the stroke is not present. So what I'm going to do, I could hold down the left mouse button and just drag it like that. And if you can see, I'm not sure if you can see clearly, because Screen Presser has a interesting way of handling my colour when it comes to recording. But from my perspective, I can see a circle or an oval, and that's just how it works like that. That's if I just hold down the left mouse button. If I hold down the left shift key, whilst I'm holding the left mouse button, it allows me to keep the shape as it is. So I need to think, how big is a rotor? I'll say I'm going to leave it at about that. And there we go. As you can see where we've got our turbine rotor, we have this little symbol here. What the symbol means, it means that this is now a smart object or shape. I will demonstrate that in a minute. Before I do that, I'm just going to press the B. Now because I press B, I can see that you have this kind of symbol. Well, B means brush. That's the hotkey for brush tool. As you can see there, it says B. And I can't do anything with it because the shape loader has to be rasterized. Basically, it's kind of like making saying a smart object. Like here, if I say convert the smart object, it got saying like that, which means that it keeps everything as it is, but I cannot edit it unless I no longer have it in that kind of position. But I'm going to press Ctrl Z, undo that, because I want to come back to these effects shortly or soon or anything like that, and hopefully in this video I might actually complete this entire scene. It may take a while because I didn't really want to get this entire thing done, so this video may be long, and if it's too long I do apologise, but it's a project that I want to let the tutors at the higher national curriculum see, so they've got all the evidence they need of what I am doing, as well as my subscribers and viewers on YouTube on my Aesthetics Interactive Studios channel will be able to see what I'm doing, just to let people know that the studio and what happens it's worked to a near professional standards. So we ain't got anything to hide, basically. That's all I'm saying. There's nothing to hide. So I'm going to go back on my turbine rotor, and I am just going to position it over here. I could use the hold down the shift key so I can move it in certain lines, like so. And I can go up and down as well. And it doesn't change where it is. That's if I hold it down the shift. I think that is a good position. Now I want to get out of its shape object, because I would like to. I always rasterize my shapes. The only reason I do that is because I feel that it just don't look right to me when it's still in its shape, because I always see an outline around it and I don't like it. So I generally get rid of it. So there's the rotor. Now we need to try and copy every effects that this has and paste it onto here. How do I do that? I am not sure if you can copy effects, but if I can't, then I have to try and figure it out another way. I basically had to keep double clicking on these, looking what I've got here, seeing these positions, and then I just had to tweak it from time to time. It's just to trying to maintain what it looks like. But first and first, I'm going to start with the gradient, which is on normal. The opacity is at 60, and I've got a certain color to it. It's a linear. Scale is 150, and its angle is 175 degrees. Okay. I should have that kind of set up saved. It doesn't seem to be saved. I'm not sure if I can load it. Oh, I can save it. I can save the gradient. I'm going to save this as a I'm going to call it a midday. I'm sorry about that, sorry. No, not midnight, midday gradient. I'm going to save that in gradient. But custom, I'm going to call that midday. Yep. I've already saved it, my gradient, but I don't know if that would mean that I can add it into there, because it doesn't seem to show. If I click on new, aha, there we go. I never actually went this far into using Photoshop's kind of effects, but now that I've got the effects saved, I won't have to have trouble duplicating what I decide here, which is going to be very handy when it comes to making the blades and the rotor. So now that that's saved, I will save you again, call you midday gradients, and I'm just going to replace that like so, and I'm going to press OK. So now that I've got that saved, I am going to go to the gradients here, then I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to select it, and there we go. I have my gradient selected. You're on 150, you're at 175, like so, and your opacity is at 60, and I'm going to just press OK there. So now that's done. What is the pattern overlay? Pattern overlay, I have no idea. It's an overlay, 100%, 50 scale. Okay, so now I've got to go through all of that again. Back to the pattern overlay. I think it's that one. Or is it that one? Yeah, I think it's that one. You've got to be, was it 50? I can't remember. I'm going to leave it at 50. I'm going to turn it to overlay. And then I'm going to press OK. There's an inner shadow. I don't know if I... 21, oh dear. I might have an outer shadow. You know, it's just to create an ambient occlusion, or screen space ambient occlusion when it comes to video games. I want to create something like that. So instead of using an inner shadow, I am going to use an outer shadow, And out a shadow, which will be down here, drop shadow. I'm going to turn its opacity up. I'm going to change its distance to behind it, and then I'm just going to decrease the size to about, let's make that 10. I could even change its spread, so you can just barely see it. I'm going to keep that at 15. Okay, so that gives the illusion of a screen spaced ambient occlusion. So it's like that, it's casting a shadow on the bottom. A lot of games do that nowadays, but this is 2D graphics, but it's a 2D animated graphics, which will be in task 2. At the moment, this is task 1, which is building a 2D graphic. It could have been concept art, but I'm making a texture for a billboard. Or as I got up here, it's a task 1 demonstration poster. Now, I ain't going to go into too much details in what all of this stuff means, but the angle means of its where its position is in terms of like a sunlight or anything like that. Distance means how far away from the object it is. But for what I'm doing, it's going to be all the way behind it, just so you can see it go all around and it's not affected by sunlight or anything. And that's good for a ambient occlusion kind of effect, in my opinion. That's why I generally use a drop shadow and change its distance to 0, so I can have that ambient occlusion look, and it just makes it, it just gives it depth to me. But we also got the spread, so it makes it how rough the shadow's gonna be, the size of how blurry and how large it is. So we're gonna leave it at that for the moment. We could have another stroke, but I think the outline of the drop shadow is good enough. I need a bevel emboss. Inner bevel, smooth, 50 depth, 65 size. Everything's pretty much all the same. So, yeah, I think that'd be the last thing. I'm gonna make you 50. I might need to make this a little more rounder, like 60. Yep. Everything there is all the same, which is good news. I could have a no, I think that's fine. That is fine. That's good. Is there anything else that I had to add? Nope. I think that works. I could have used an inner shadow actually, just to give it that depth. So let's go to inner shadow. I don't know how to position this because I'm gonna leave it at that for now, and I need to double check my inner shadow. It's at 90 degrees, 75 degrees opacity. That space is normal. Distance is 21, size 40. Okay. That I may, however, change it so to about distance of 10. Maybe change the. You just want to give it that depth, you know. And my computer seems to be making a lot of weird static noises. It generally comes on the monitor. It's not so much from my computer. It's mainly my monitor that makes the noise. It's because how Photoshop is set up on my computer, it just doesn't seem to add up correctly. But it doesn't stop me using it. But I think that the top of our turbine is now done. I just need to add the blaze onto it, but it's going to be behind it. Now, we had to go back to Google Images and look at the turbine blades. Look at a blade. Any blade. How is a blade shaped? Why is it shaped like that? We won't need to know why it's shaped like that, but we need to know how it is designed. If anything, it looks like one of to me, it just kind of reminds me of one of those plastic knives that you have when you go to a party or something like that. It's just like those plastic knife things. So I wonder if we can actually find a shape in the shape tool that could help us with such the task. To do that, we're going to go back to our shape tool, and we are going to hold down the left mouse button and we're going to click on custom. And we can find any shape we want. Any shape. Whichever one you want, really. I think that, a paintbrush. Ooh. It's a good cheating way, especially if we hide the actual bottom part of the brush behind the rotor. I think that might make it look good. So yeah. The thing is, you can use any kind of shape you want. And you can make something out of it. So, in this video so far, I have covered how to use the shape tool more than anything else. Because the shape tool is good for getting certain shapes and designs, how you want things to have them more accurately. It's not of you having to always keep painting or using straight lines like with a brush tool or anything like that. If I was doing something like matte painting, which I actually did put down in my memo or in my note on my phone, which mentions about the softwares I'll be using, which is the Adobe suite. That includes Photoshop, but I also put in brackets there as possible matte painting. What matte painting is, it's basically adding a image from something, putting it into a shot or image. It's mainly more of a filming kind of things. We're gonna look at what a matte painting is actually. We already got an idea on the turbine blade. But matte painting, hopefully they do have some before and afters. Yeah, let's go to before and afters. See if we can find something. For example, you have your original photo here. Can we actually increase the size? Yeah. So, for example, this is your original photo. And to your right is the matte painted version. It's basically putting things into an original photo, and basically it's kind of just making it more appealing. I'm not saying that the original photo is not appealing, it's just it's used more in the filming industry to get an idea of how something looks. For example, we have this, a very beautiful landscape in the background. We have this kind of building like structure here, and we've got like waterfalls coming down from behind it. And I'll say, if there's anything that is a problem with this photo, everything behind it looks good, but the one thing I don't like, it's just this pole. It just doesn't look right. If you can see right where my mouse is, you got that kind of sunlight line down there, and that just don't look right. It's more of if someone just had an inside glow and just stuck it in there. I'm not saying it's a bad design, and everything else looks amazing, but it's just that. But that's what I was thinking of putting in my project. It having things like certain object size or buildings and things like that, and adding it into my Photoshop work. But I'm thinking of trying to get this done in time and stuff like that. Oh, excuse me. Oh, so where was I on here? Oh yes, custom shape tool, paintbrush, and we're just gonna add this paintbrush in. And as you can see, if you can't see it clearly, I apologize, but I can see it. I'm just gonna make it like that, and again we want it the same color as we got. I might actually do a custom size or shape tool for this. I'm gonna go in press Control T, which allows me to go into a free transform, and I can just move it to certain shapes and sizes. If I hold down the shift, I can change it universally, as I like to call it. If I hold down the Alt, it allows me to change it like that. I think that'll do. But I think if I hold down the control, if I hold on a certain end, I can design things like this and just create anything I want. Did you think? Yeah, I think that's a good blade. There we go. That's a perfect blade for me. And what we're gonna do now is we are just gonna drag it like there, and then we're just gonna move or hold on to this layer here and just bring it behind. So now it's behind. I could have stuck it on top, but I didn't really want to. I could have used the mask tool as well for example, for just this section here and just mask it, but I don't want to do that either. But I don't want to erase it, so I feel it'd be better if I just hid it behind. There are many ways you can do things, and I can just move it to a certain position. If I hold down the control whilst I'm in the dragging tool, which is that, or the move tool, whatever you want to call it, the feed keys to get into that. And I can just hold down the control and just put in a certain position anywhere I want, and I can just do that. Now, again, I'm gonna rasterize this. I could do it through certain ways, like here. You've got different ways. I wouldn't know where to find the things because I am a little rusty with Photoshop stuff, because my main strength is more of 3D, but I can rasterize the shape. There we go. Or the faster way you could have done it was you could have just went on, like, get on your brush tool and just click somewhere and then rasterize it that way. So hopefully I will make this a little quick. I might not talk much for this next section because I'm going to be trying to speed up a little, and I want to try to make sure I get all of these blades in the right positions. I'm going to call this blade A. There we go. So if I don't talk, then that means I'm working. If you're watching this on YouTube, it will be edited to be sped up. But for my tutors at the Higher National Curriculum (HNC) course in Creative Media Productions, Interactive Media, then they're gonna have the original video, which is what you're watching right now. So let me kind of begin working on this. Oh, it should be fun. Okay, that looks impressive. Change the size. No, the size should stay the same, right? No. Make you 40. Good. No, I wanted about 60. Yep, 60. Keep everything the same like that. Yep. I want a gradient. The gradient's going to be overlaid, and I'm going to make you with my sunlight kind of effect, like so. Keep the scale. No, turn the scale to 150. The opacity stays the same. Pattern overlay. I'm gonna put you to that, and then I'm gonna overlay you. That'll do. You know how? No, I can't drop shadow for that. Inner glow. No, I don't want inner glow. Inner shadows. The inner shadow just mainly gets it there. I'm gonna keep that on 75. I don't want to change that. I'm gonna keep that the same. I'm gonna. That just makes it very sharp. I don't want it very sharpish. I want to change its distance. I'm gonna keep that at 65. No, I'm gonna make that about 20. Yeah, 20 sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Yep. Set. Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. That's the first blade done. Now I'm gonna have to duplicate this by clicking on it and then right clicking on it and go to duplicate layer, and then I'm going to I could keep it as blade A copy, but I'm going to call it blade B, and I am going to mirror it. You could go to here, image, and then you go to image rotation. However, I advise not to go to image because it will flip. If, for example, if I go flip, it says flip canvas, and that means the whole image will be reversed. But I want to just rotate the layer I've got selected. So you go to edit, then we go to transform, and then you go flip horizontal. And as you can see, that's now being flipped horizontally. Now I'm going to press the V key for the move tool, which is up there, or you could just click on it, and then I'm going to left click on that, hold down the shift key, and then I'm just going to drag it across like so. Now it's identical. Oh, excuse me. Now my next stage here is, obviously I've got to make one more blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate you and go to you, and then I will make you as blade C, like so, and then I'm going to do that. Now, if I remember correctly, if I go to Control T and rotate it, as you can see, the gradient color, if I was using Blender 3D term, the kind of layer where the layers design and how it's all set up, it's I will call as generated instead of UV. When I say generated, I mean that it's all just generated onto the image or object, but when you move the object, the actual textures and things you added to it will stay where it is. When I say stay where it is, I mean it does not move with the object, so it's more of a generated. And that's kind of the same with this. I'm gonna have to get that in a good, nice old position. I think like that. Maybe too slightly. Yeah. I'm holding the left control instead of the shift because it can be a bit of a daunting task. And I press enter, and there we go. The reason why these blades do not have a screen space ambient occlusion kind of effect is because they're going to be dynamic. When I say dynamic, I mean if I had select all three of these, and if I went to just say Control T for free transform, I would have it spinning around, but it's not spinning how I want it to spin. The reason for that being is because its pivot point here is not in the right position, which would have to be in the middle here. So now if I spin it, it stays in the middle. And that is basically what I am trying to capture here. This to be animated, which will be in task 2. So I'm just gonna press enter because I want to make sure the pivot point stays there. It will come in handy when I start bringing this into Adobe After Effects, which I have down here. But I won't be bringing it into After Effects until I start my task 2 videos. Oh, one mistake I have made is that I have not saved it yet. It is very important that any work you do has to be saved, because if your computer has a form any kind of breakdown or problems or anything like that, or Photoshop crashes and it closes on you, you could lose your progress. And that is something that I was not paying attention to whilst I was doing this. So that is something to keep in mind. Just beware that whenever you're working on any project, either in Autodesk Maya, which I got down there, or Blender, or even like the Unreal Engine 3. I have the Unreal Engine 4 as well, and I've got Unity engine, so I do have a different. Basically, I've got a lot of software on this computer, a lot of software that does a lot of things, and it's very important to save any work that you do on them. Otherwise, you lose it all. I do think, however, that any effects that I've added onto these may not be brought into After Effects, which means that I may have to redo the effects on these layers. I'm not sure yet, but I won't try it yet because I'm not on that point just yet. I think with the rotor now done, I think the next thing I'm gonna do is create a landscape. I'm gonna basically use basic shapes like a ellipse shape. I'm going to use an ellipse shape because I can like make different landscape layers. So let's just say if I had a camera in After Effects and I'm animating the billboard, because that's technically a 2D animation that way. I have the I would have like the flipping hills down here that gradually move. So it's like gives that kind of depth to it and like 3D looking kind of thing. However, I am a bit of stuck on words, but that is because all of this is being made from scratch. None of this is all planned or prepared. It's basically working to this brief, but it's working literally from nothing to making something. And so far I have this turbine. And now I'm going to have to make a plan. I'm just going to use basic blocks. Maybe I'm going to change the colour to a green for a nice green hill. And we are just going to start here. And just going to drag it across like so. Just slightly move that a bit so we got it like that. I'm going to press Ctrl T. And then I have to kind of increase its size, but before I can increase its size I need to move. I just have to scale up because I need to see the shape's outer ring. So Control T again to go back into here, and I'm just gonna move that. I'm gonna keep that where it is. Maybe I can just bring that bit and just bring that down slightly like so. Have it in a certain angle. Yep. So we've got one shape. I might put that. Should I have it in front of the blades? Or behind the shaft? So the shaft is on. This is interesting. I'm trying to think how I'm going to have this shape. Maybe I should keep the toe on there and the hills in the background. Yeah. That's going to be my hill 1. So I've got my hill 1. I'm going to leave you where you are. Now I'm going to make another ellipse. And this one's going to be in front of... Well, this one's going to be behind it actually. So I'm going to again start here and just do that. And I'm going to call that hill 2. Hill 2. I know it's different to the other one, yet. And then I'm just going to leave it as that. Okay. So now I've got my hills. Now, it looks a bit funny because it doesn't look like it's out of shape. That's because I have not yet added any effects to these. Because hill 2 is at the bottom, that means it's behind. So if I go to my hill 1 and then just probably do like an out drop, something like that. I'm going to just change it like that. Do what I did with the turbine. For the screen space ambient occlusion, just give it a tank little shadowing, and then you got that kind of outline there, which will come in, which is good because now you can see that it's a completely different. Now I'm going to be using different brush presets now to make some grass, but before I do that, I could scale down the entire the turbine stuff, or leave it as it is and just move the hills in front. Alright, so yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna leave it as it is. There we go. That'll work. The reason now, why am I gonna be using different brush presets? Because I want to make this ground look grassy. I could use a pattern overlay. If I go into my pattern overlay here, and then go to here, click here, and go to nature patterns, I can get a grass effect. but I'm going to scale that down to about 30 will do. Yeah, 30 will do. I could change that to opacity to 45, and that will work. That looks quite good. I'm going to do the same with the heel number 2. Again, pattern overlay, grass. Because this one's at a distance, it's going to be shorter, so I'm going to say about, let's say last one's 40, I'm going to make you about 20, maybe 12, because it's further away. And again, we're going to take you down to about 45, sure do. It's further away, so it should match. Now, with these grass, I am going to first start with the back. We're going to start with grass 1. Trust me, but when you get through all of this work, when it comes to making any graphics, you will be making a lot of layers. And when you start getting to all these layers, it might be more suitable if you like create folders for each thing. So for example, if I'm going to make a folder, I'm going to call this one turbine pieces, and I am gonna just bring that up to the top here, and I can just select, oops, just hold down the left control and you can select any pieces you want, and that is all that. Now if you see now, because all of my turbine stuff, I can hide all of that by clicking on this indicator here. And now, because all my turbine stuffs are in the folder, I can now reduce that, which means that I've got more space in my layer section to work on, so it doesn't take up all the spaces. So instead of me having to keep using this and scrolling down, I built a folder, or created a folder, which you can do there, or a group as it's known, and you can basically put your layers into them, so you have a more cleaner workspace. Something else that was mentioned that when I was at college, but we never really paid attention to it, but for this production work, I want to try and make sure that I point out every possibility and everything has to be labeled down, because I had to work this to a professional standard and it has to be documented. Everything I do all adds towards my task, which I had to identify, explore appropriate software tools, and give reasons why I'm using it. Now, my reason for creating a folder is so I can clean up my layer section here, as well as label and know exactly what is what and what belongs where. So with turbine pieces, everything in my turbine folder relates to the turbine pieces, from its blades to its rotor and to the shaft. And that means that I can now focus on all of the rest. So, my grass. If I press the B key to go back into my brush, we have this section here, which allows me to select different kinds of stuff. And the ones I'm looking at is this one. The reason why I'm looking at that is because I can create that. Oh my god. You have to be careful. You won't be able to see it. As you can see there, I can make all these leaves. But I'm gonna have to change the color of these. If I change this color to saying like a green, just that kind of green, and then paint, you can still see white-ish and difference. That is because it is selecting the colors from both this white and the green. But I want to have a kind of a mix, so I'm going to have a kind of darkish green like that, And this one I'm gonna have kind of like a more drier greenish kind of look. And if I paint now, you get all these different colours all within that spectrum. If I made that a more greener, hopefully it's all more greenish, like so. So I'm going to make that more darker green. I just need to make sure that it has reasonable colours, which is good. Now I'm going to use my square brackets to reduce its size, and then I can start painting on that. So now what I'm going to do is start painting on the hills, but they look a little too big for a grassy hill, so I'm going to reduce my size again to about 50, and then I'm just going to paint along the back here. I'm working only on this hill here for now. You will get different variants of different colours, which can be dealt with by using a colouring effect, but it depends on how you really want it to look. So as I know it's faint, but you can see the grass and these, or weed, whatever you want to call it, not that kind of weed. And because we now got that, if I want to, I can go to my effects and go to my color overlay, and you can now see what that is, and I can change that to any color I want, primarily green, and then I can just change the overlay, so I've got a greenish look. I can also make a drop shadow, change its distances, and this will actually give it a more depth. Don't want it too much, I just want it so you can see where the grass is. I'll keep that at 7, maybe change the shadowing up, then reduce the size, maybe about 2. Keep the spread as 1, keep its distance, and that should do the trick. I could even give another grass effects like that, but it just won't look right. So I'm going to turn pattern overlay off. Maybe I could use one of these. What this will allow me to do with this gradient is that I can make whatever's at the hill or at a certain position more lighter than others based on the angle of the hill. So for example, 115 degrees seems appropriate. Do the same as I did before. I didn't mean to open that, and then I just turn down its opacity to about 30. 30 should do. I could do it in the glow, but I don't want to do it in the glow. I could do it in the shadows, but that ain't going to help me. I could even do a depth, but that just makes it look weird. Which I don't think I'm going to be using the Bethlehem emboss. It wouldn't be a need for this. I could hide the gradient. I'll keep it as it is. Just turn the opacity down just a little more to about 10. So it's faintly seen. And there's our first grass piece. Remember that this is going to be like a animated billboard, so the style and its detail is going to have some sort of cartoon look to it to a certain extent, because it's a billboard and it's a family friendly promotion in a not so family friendly video game. So now we're going to work on our grass number 2, and this is going to have to be behind hill 1. So grass 2, and we're going to have to make this one smaller. That should do. And we are just going to paint slightly on this back hill. And why? We just want to make sure that this environment is nice green friendly environment, because this is the kind of this billboard is to promote clean energy, and you can't promote clean energy without having green in it, or anything to do with the environment for that matter. So we now got our back ones. We're going to do something similar again, but we ain't going to go into too much details on this one, so we're going to leave it as that. We could actually check, oh no, not that one. We could actually change the drop shadow size, so we make it smaller. Oh no, we could make it a bit wider. Or we're just going to turn its opacity about lower. We could add a gradients to it, just like we did with the last one. Again, with my midday gradient. I wonder if I should actually let that gradient be downloadable, actually. I think that would be very good for people. Anyone, instead of having to get this kind of colour for midday, you can just use the use my colour gradient. Just download it for any work that you got, free of charge, no problem. But that would only be for those who are looking on YouTube, because these videos will be going up on YouTube under Aesthetics Interactive Studios. Okay, so what we got our grass now done, faintly. We have our turbine. And hold on a second, I think there's a cat stuck somewhere. I've had to go and help it. Okay, I'm back. Sorry if I'm a bit far away from the microphone at the moment. I just sat back down. My cat Max, he was playing around in the bath. Funny thing. So, yep, where was I? Yeah, grass is done. We are now going to pretty much make the sky. And also the sky is the back. So we're going to make a new layer and we're going to call that sky. But again, we are going to create a new folder. Should I make a new folder? Yeah, landscape. I'm going to call that one landscape. And we're going to just put that on top here. So everything here goes into that folder. And now we just clean up our layer space again. And now we're going to make a sky. I could easily just use a bucket and just paint the foreground to a nice blue. But I need a, like so. Very simple. Very simple. But I want to give it a bit of flavour, because I like making. I didn't mean to make a new layer, but whilst I'm at it, I'm going to just call it a sun. Go back to my brush tool. Click on here. Go here. Just use something simple like that. Change this to like a yellowish kind of colour like that. Increase its size. And there you go, there's the sun. Very simple. Very basic. Very basic, very simple. But we're going to go back to our sky and we're going to use a gradient colour, because I want the gradient to come from that direction. I could use the same as that, like so. Because I think that is reasonable to get an actual kind of look. I want it from this certain direction only because that's where the sun is. And if you have noticed when you look at the sky, where the sun is, that part of the sky always seems more brighter than normal. So I might tweak my sunlight section here, and we're just going to add in another piece of the puzzle. maybe a more lighter blue, like so. And then we could possibly increase the lighting on this a bit to about a more friendlier blue. And maybe make that a tad more lighter. That way we have a more nicer looking sky. I could add clouds in, but I might not do that in this video. If anything, I might leave the clouds for the next video. Which, at the moment, however, excuse me, I would say this is the final product of my graphics design. Very simple. I say simple because it is very simple, but that's how I make things. I mean, my Photoshop skills are very rusty. They ain't the best, I know, but everyone's got a certain style. I can't make ultra realistic 2D graphics in Adobe Photoshop or anything like that. I am more of a 3D person, so anything I make is more 3D, and I can make 3D look good. Whether it's realistic is another matter, but it doesn't matter if you make something realistic or not. It all comes down to your style. And when it comes to me, I'm more of a traditional cartoon kind of person when it comes to 2D. I like the old Tom and Jerry shows, so I generally want to try and make a look or theme or style similar to those old cartoons. But nonetheless, I believe that if I get rid of my stroke, yeah, there we go. I believe that this is my final part of my task 1. I mean, if I let me save it first before I recheck, because task 1 is: you should demonstrate your use of 2D graphics software tools for computer game animation on your blog and record your work in progress. Now, I don't know about you, but just these videos alone is a record of my work, and you can see me building it up, so it is a work in progress. I had to identify and explore appropriate tools for my particular type of 2D graphics. It doesn't say a certain type of 2D graphics, it says for your particular type. For basically my style, my own style. What style appeals to me and how can I make it work? And I think what I've done in my Photoshop is appealing to me, and is the style that I kind of wanted for something like a family friendly, clean energy advertisement billboard that you will see in a video game. And it says show comparisons of the tools I could have used. Okay, so if I had to make a comparison, I could have used the pencil tool for painting these, but I also could have used like the lasso tool to select certain areas like that and just create certain things. When it comes to these grass ones, I could have used other brushes like that one, where I can just paint on it, but I also could have changed or created my own brush presets. For example, if I just go here, and then I can go to my property, if I remember correctly where that is. I think it's there, but there is a way that you can open these and like edit or create a new property or anything like that. I can't remember exactly how you do it. Preset manager isn't what you do. I wasn't meant to load anything, but that's what I said. My skills in Photoshop is a little rusty, but you do have your brush presets things you can change how you want your things. For example, you can make your spacing, or you can make big spacing. You can change your hardness like that. You can even change the shape dynamics. If I click on the shape dynamics, I can change how I have it styled. And I could have just do something like that. But I didn't want to do it in this video. I mean, I generally always use the one tool for certain things. If I like selecting the sky, or if I'm selecting the sun, or anything like that, anything at all. If I was like doing a turbine and things like that, there are many tools I could have used. If I actually brought in some reference images, I could have just used a cloning stamp tool like this. Click over something and then paint it somewhere else, and or paint it onto here, so I can make like the grass look a little more realistic. But it depends on the kind of style you want to capture. I do apologize that these demonstration videos or these project videos are very long. I do apologize that these are long, but it's because these are work in progresses. They're evidence, and they are to have a lot of information about certain tools I'm using, how I'm using them, why I'm using them, as well as basically as evidence to show that a lot of the things that I do just comes on the top of my head a lot of the time. I don't really work towards the plan. Sometimes I don't make any preparations or prepare for anything. Oh, I like this map painting. But things like that. And that's if I wanted a mirror, I can just make that. But I'm really just aiming for just to pass my things. I'm not really so fast. I mean, I do like the idea that having higher grades, like a distinction, would be nicer, and it could help me more when it comes to the career paths and things like that. It says, in order to achieve your D1, which is your distinction one, you should justify the techniques and methods you have used and show your ideas have developed through analysis and evaluation on your blog. Well, again, I think my video that I'm recording, this video, is self-explanatory. It is an evaluation at the same time, as well as developing my ideas, creating an idea, basing it on references and things like that, the techniques and methods that I'm using to create my work. So I think that these video recordings pretty much add all of it together into one thing, and I'll let my videos speak louder than my words. But that doesn't mean that I don't blog. What I do, eventually I will have to put this up onto my Behance. So my argument now is, I believe personally that my task 1 is done, which is the 2D digital graphics. I have created my 2D digital graphic. The next task is 2D digital animation, which I will explain further in the next video. But for now, I have my design. I'm happy with my design. I'm going to leave it here, and I will see all of yous again very soon. So I'm Lucas No from Aesthetics Interactive Studios, and thank you for watching.